Hi and welcome. So this is the bi-weekly K8s Infra meeting and we are December 7th. So as always, this meeting is under the code of conduct and it's going to be published to YouTube after the end of this meeting. So just a friendly reminder to be excellent to each other in this meeting. Let me share my screen quickly. So I'm going to put the link of the docs in the chat. So I see new face in this call. So is there like anyone want to introduce himself before we start? Like first, welcome to anyone new in this meeting. And if you want to introduce yourself, feel free to ask. Hi, Carsten. Am I pronouncing right? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm Karsten Wade. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a principal community architect at Red Hat in the open source program office. If you're, Josh Burkus is a colleague of mine if you're looking for a comparable person. Because I'm working with the Operate First project. It looks like I'm maybe speaking from Marcel Hild's point later because I think it got to be late for him in Germany. Oh, there he is. I'm sorry. Haha.
Yeah. I just also want to say hello. I'm a teammate of Karsten. I'm the technical counterpart of this initiative. And I put ourselves on the agenda so we can go into more detail once we're on the spot.
Okay, welcome to both of you. Happy to see you in the meeting. Anyone else?
You can go next. My name is Igor. This is my first time in this SIG. I work for Shopify infrastructure security team. I'm in Montreal. I met the SIG Infra team at KubeCon. Got very interested in what they do, also because like we do infra security, infra, somewhat related. So I thought it would be interesting to help. So yeah, what else? I was a member of Bug Triage at some point. So I'm already in the Kubernetes org. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, then maybe me. Hi, I'm Mario from Germany. I work as architect for Kubernetes, and we are currently talking to the CNCF to support with the whole moving to different cloud provider strategy. And happy to listen in and hope to support you.
Hi everyone, Fatih Dermanci here. First time taking part in this meeting, working for LF, and here to listen and learn. Thanks.
Okay, welcome to everyone new in this call. Happy to see those faces I saw during KubeCon again. I hope we have interesting conversation in the future about basically anyone involvement. Do we have someone else interested to do an introduction? Okay, so I think for people new in this call, we're doing billing review of the overall infrastructure. So we have like a report. You need to be part of mailing list to get access to that. And each meeting, we try to basically go over this report, see what went during the last 2 weeks. For this billing review, I'm just gonna go over. Is that? No, that's not accurate. So yeah, I'm just gonna go over November, basically try to explain what's new, what's happening currently in infrastructure. So for new people, this is basically a page expressing the different GCP project we use and the different service we consume and the cost related to service. This is, I'm just sending a shout out to Justin because he was the one set up all of this. So thank you again. I'm thankless for this report. So I just want to go over the cost for November. So we spend, I think, 300K monthly, and this is something recurrent each month for this year because we spend a lot of money in egress distribution. So we basically blow up the budget. Like we spend annually more than 1.5 million just to ensure we can serve the community in terms of container images. So this is an overview of basically what looks like in terms of distribution, also CI and everything related to the Kubernetes infrastructure in general. So, but compared to last time, the one change that occurred is like we now use artifact registry, which is basically the new customer registry proposed by Google to serve the content images. For people new to this call, we gave two talks during KubeCon about this. I will try to find the link and put in docs that basically explain. So since we went GA with registry.case.io, we now spend money on artifact registry because this is an endpoint using artifact registry to store and serve the container images. So I think that's like the new element in this billing report. I want to add like, because basically if I go most of the time, if you don't track this billing report weekly, it's difficult to understand what's really happening here. I don't want to go over the billing report because we have other subject we want to talk about. So we can, if anyone has like a question, we can try to figure out this later in the next meeting and answer to the question related to billing. I don't think there's like something specific right now. Sorry. And on page 6, for people in interest, we also have the capability to compare spend of the current month versus last month. And that basically helps us kind of identify if there's like increase in cost at some point, or basically something went wrong during the infrastructure and we have to investigate. Don't trust the percentage here because it's kind of misleading, because the C infrastructure is always evolving. People add jobs, remove jobs, so it's really difficult to basically see this data as a problem. Like, oh, I went over budget for a specific project. Is there a problem or not? It's like something difficult to figure out because we have big CI and it's really difficult to try to understand what's happening over time. That's why most of the time I trust the monthly report, because that gives you a general overview to understand what's happening. Any specific question about this? I don't see all the faces, so I don't think there's a question. Let me see the chat. Okay, I think we can move on to the next subject. Okay, so Caleb, you first for the open discussion.
Hey everyone. Yeah, so I have just a PR that I'd like to have reviewed and merged. It's just to do with an existing pipeline Go app that I wrote a little like maybe 5 months ago or something. And the changes basically enable the filtering of AWS Cost Explorer export, which goes to a GCP bucket, GCS bucket, and then eventually into a BigQuery dataset. This is related or tangential to the last thing that we talked about with Mohammed, to do with how to get out all of the billing data. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. The proposed method of doing that, which I was preparing for with Mohammed, it doesn't appear to allow for filtering for accounts, which is problematic. So I have this existing piece of code that works pretty well and will provide the filtered sufficient information to be able to get billing out of the, I think it's 4 different accounts. It's hard coded because it doesn't need to be configured separately, but this is just the first step into getting all that data out and making it usable.
Where do we export that?
So currently this is configured to go to a bucket in the, I think it's the K8s Infra II sandbox account. Of course, that's going to be different when we eventually put this into production, if this is the right way to go. But yep, that's where that will, it'll go to a GCS bucket.
Okay, so I'm -1 on the idea to basically export AWS data to GCP, because I think we can put that data in S3 and run analysis using S3.
This
Actually,
I have hopes that it can be integrated into the existing way that we do billing reports, which is why it's convenient to be over in GCP. It doesn't have to be. It's quite trivial to change that. But yeah, this is just the current state of it, and I think it'll be quite useful either way.
Okay, I'm gonna phrase this differently. So the thing is, for next year, I would like basically we externalize stuff, not put things inside GCP. Instead, put things out of GCP, because we're gonna run out of budget next year if we keep integrate things inside GCP. I think that's my problem here. Like, now I want to put everything outside of GCP to give us room to absorb cost. That's the one thing I want to do. Like, that's what I'm saying. I will basically, I feel like I would prefer to not integrate that with current billing report, to make sure we keep money to absorb the cost, because next year we're gonna have again the problem related to cost exhaustion.
Yeah.
We tried to redirect. So Google tried to do the redirection from. Sorry, I'll finish. Like Google, we tried with Google to do a redirection to ensure we can minimize traffic for costs for contour images. It didn't work, and they decided to basically revert for technical reason, which put us in the situation of next year we need to make sure the credit we get inside GCP will be used just for that. So next year, my idea is like trying to move things outside of GCP.
Yeah, that's great. And let's make that happen. But my suggested changes are separate to that. So my changes are, in this, we're filtering this pipeline to only include those accounts, and changing the way that they're exported and stored is a different thing, which I'm happy to address.
Okay. I will try to review that I'll put that in my backlog for review because I've just seen also in line for review.
Thank you.
Arnaud, it looks like we skipped over the discussion of topics such as redirection reverted.
Oh yeah, it's right. So I kind of, oh yeah, this one. So during the last 3 to 6 months, there was like an attempt to redirect traffic from case.gci.io to community infrastructure. It happened for maybe, I think, 4 weeks, and we encountered, I think, mostly that triggered technical issue inside Google infrastructure. So it was decided to be reversed. Like I'm not sure. I don't think I have like all the detail because there was like, I would say, some security issue to communicate that information. I don't have that information. We might need to talk to Googlers about this, but it was basically decided to revert. So we just keep, the traffic will go through Google for a long time until we have the user and the community using the new registry endpoint.
So that backport PR, those are all dead now, right?
We try something different.
That's fine.
It's
I just want
done.
to know, should I
Yeah,
just consider it dead now, right?
we try something different. It's done, but we scope the basically the backport with two specific line of code.
Oh, that's the one that, so the big one I made with 2,000 files, I can probably close that one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So for people inside the context, we're trying to basically introduce the new endpoint to older version of Kubernetes. And we basically did some Git chirping to make that happen. And Brian was working on that for maybe 3 weeks. And that got merged today, 2 or 3 hours ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I completely forgot to ping you about this. Any question related to the revert, something?
Not for me.
Okay.
I noticed no redirection taking place to register.gates.io, only the older repos.
Can you repeat? I think I miss one. Yeah.
Sorry. Just want to understand: is no redirection taking place to register.gates.io at the moment?
Yeah, no redirection at the moment until maybe GCP try to do that again in the future. I have like no dates or promises about this, like, because it's like I'm not a Googler, so I don't have information right now about this. And the official communication is like something got triggered and they had to revert. I need to maybe find a Slack message from Ben or John about this.
All right.
My understanding is that anyone with a lockdown network configuration, which included like Google customers, but we also expect to include other people, was broken by this.
Okay.
We detected it first for like, internal stuff, but yes, it was that previously we basically like required more network access than we previously had, which broke a lot of stuff.
Hopefully we might basically have a new attempt in the future. I don't have basically a date for this, assuming Google found a workaround to make it happen. But we have like, for the moment, we had to revert.
I mean, we might. I think, like, how does a user say that they're good with it? The easiest way for them to say that they're good with it is to switch to like registry.k8s.io, right? So like,
Yep. So if you know a customer, a company using the deprecate endpoint, just tell them to upgrade or switch. Okay, so I'm next. I think it was last week during SIG release meeting, I suggest we stop doing image promotion to case.gci.io for the future, because this is now deprecate, if I want to say that. And we just, the idea is to make sure mainly the sub project. When I say sub project, things like cluster API, COPS, K8s, and other sub project using the community infrastructure to own to host the container image, to do the promotion only to registry.k8s.io. And there's like a conversation happening with SIG release. We try to basically find how we're going to make it happen and what's the technical implementation of this. So if you have any opinion about this, feel free to go to the conversation. I put the link in docs. I don't think there's a specific conversation about this. This is just like trying to give an update about the subject.
Do you think we need to open an issue or not about this? To capture the discussion?
Well, I think the discussion is already enough to capture basically different opinion about this. Like, I will put my +1 in the discussion and say, oh, I think we're fine with that. But what I think we need to discuss the implication. What are the implications of doing this for the community downstream? That's where I think the conversation need to happen. Is it like fine to stop doing promotion for all the release support by the community for, like, let's say 2023? Is it fine to do that? Because this is like a direct impact for anyone deploying vanilla Kubernetes. The impact is mostly infrastructure, because when we went in production with the new registry, we had people coming and say, oh, we have security policy in place blocking case.io.
But that one was, so I'm wondering if the gap about distribution should be updated with the deprecation plan for the older registry. So that gap has been like massaged over the years to signify many things. And I think now that finally we have the new registry, perhaps one final mutation capturing the deprecation plan should be, because I feel it needs to be captured somewhere.
Yeah, you're right about this. I think we can update the gap. Also, if you have the link of the gap, we can put that in the meeting notes. I don't remember. I never remember the name.
Yeah, I think
the
it's
number of that.
I'll add it to the notes. Give me a second.
Yeah, I think we can try to introduce some kind of a deprecation policy for case.gci.io and say by, I would say, end of maybe 129 or something like that. We say we cannot guarantee we will push new container image to that registry, because there's going to be some nuance about deprecation. Deprecation means the registry still exists, but we don't push any new image to it.
Yeah, well, some of the conversations I've been involved with around this topic suggests much earlier stop of new tax. So
Yeah.
some as early as, January or so.
Yeah, because there's the impact is on two aspects. The official artifact, I would say basically the 5 Kubernetes component will be impacted. How we handle that versus the sub project. I mean, we can say for Kubernetes, when I say Kubernetes, the 5 component, we don't deprecate right now, but for the sub project, we basically do an announcement to all the SIGs and say, oh yeah, if you basically want to do promotion and cut new version of your project or sub project of tooling you have currently, stop push to k8s.gci.io. And I think that's my main target, sub project. For Kubernetes itself, I think it's fine to have a different deprecation policy, but for the sub project, we should do something early. Good things Ricardo is in the call because Ingress is like one target as one of the most popular project use. So, I mean, those kind of projects are like the one thing I'm targeting right now.
I'm up to. We can delete the repo as well. I'll say, yeah, there is no repo anymore. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
You love your fan base, don't you?
I do.
Any question about this? Yeah, so for people new in the call, this is related to release process in general. So if you have any question, go to SIG release channel, and if you are curious about how the release process is happening. I think we have Justin in the call as a former release team member. So
I don't think I was ever on the release team actually, so.
yeah, also both, yeah, sorry. We have Justin Barbara and Justin Garrison, so I completely forgot.
Sorry, wrong Justin. Apologies. Hi, Justin.
Any question about this? Okay, I'm also next. I'm gonna just give a quick update about this. So we had a conversation with Fastly last week as a follow-up of a request to basically, we applied to the open source program, I think like 6 months ago. And we finally got an approval pending contract signature between Fastly and CFCF about, I would say, support from Fastly to distribute some artifact through their network. So that's like my general update about this in general. So we request 60 terabyte for egress monthly and a few things like, so we will get 60 terabyte of egress tracking monthly for a year, because basically they have to review the contract every year with any project they deal with. But I don't expect we migrate away from them for a long time, because they've been serving open source project for a very long time now. So we will get general support. Basically, I put this in quote because you have to check the support page to do that. I need to put that somewhere. We get also traffic encryption, so mostly 5 TLS certificate we can apply, and some assistance from the developer team. They are not here to talk about this, but we will see them in the future. Because my first goal is to move DL.K8s.io to like share that with Fastlane, because currently it's like inside Google, it's more like infrastructure inside Google. So the idea is to basically move that inside community infrastructure and share the binaries with Fastlane. So that's like my update. Justin, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, yes, I put it in chat. That's great news. For those of us that can't do the math, I can't do the math. How much is our download currently in terabytes as opposed to in dollars?
I don't know, because that bucket is inside Google. So I think you might be the best person to give me that information.
I was like, do we know ballpark? I'm just like, I guess I can guess it based on like, if we assume, I don't know, like 10 cents a gigabyte. I'm just trying to do the math.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think last year I basically talked about this with a Googler, and what I got is like, it's massive, and we just gonna migrate, because it's gonna blow up our budget in like 3 months.
I guess, do we think 60 terabytes is enough? Is I guess like my question boils down to.
If it's not enough, we can reach out to Fastly to increase bandwidth. So they give us that flexibility. Like we talk about this, like because this endpoint is kind of scary in terms of bandwidth, I want to start with Fastly and see what's happening. If it's not enough, we can reach out to them and increase the threshold. I think that and we will get access to this metric. So I'm pretty sure they also will get access to metric and see the traffic. I don't really expect a problem. Compared to the other open source project they support, I don't think we triggered that much in terms of bandwidth. So I'm not really worried about that. So the migration need to be discussed. I will open an issue about this, and basically trying to put where are the technical requirements to achieve that migration. Any question? Okay. So I think we can go to the next point, which is operate first. So anyone need to share the screen, or we just give us?
No.
Okay.
I haven't prepared anything. Actually, I just put it this morning, my morning. It's now my evening, into this agenda. You can follow the link. It has a nice web page. It basically boils down to, it's an upstream initiative to open up cloud operations, and it's basically a concept what needs to be done to operations to do something similar that open source did to software. So it's like this mental mind shift or a concept, but accompanying to that, we also built out a open community cloud, which is hybrid across bare metal and cloud providers, to give basically Kubernetes and other resources to community projects. So you can just sign up via a GitHub account and get your namespaces in a community operated Kubernetes environment. We offer sorts of services like Argo CD to deploy your applications, monitoring services like Grafana and Prometheus and Loki and other bleeding, air quotes, bleeding edge stuff. It's fully backed by a GitOps principle. And we also use Prow to do our CI/CD stuff. And have Tecton pipelines. So that's already not at the size of Kubernetes, obviously, but a small-sized multi-cloud setup. And since we heard from this initiative, this SIG Infra, to move away from being too reliant on Google Cloud infrastructure and share the load and the funding across multiple cloud providers, I came up with the idea, and that's not just a crazy idea. I don't know if that really lands with you and whether it actually makes sense, because I'm not too familiar with how Kubernetes end-to-end testing works. But how about we have a Brow instance that is deployed on multiple OpenShift/Kubernetes clusters on at least 2 cloud providers. And what Red Hat could bring to the table is one of these managed offerings. Like if we use AWS cloud credits and Azure cloud credits and Google cloud credits, and use them to spin up resources and then deploy, managed OpenShift deployed on these resources, and then basically get a managed Kubernetes environment where the community, SIG Infra, can deploy their Brow worker nodes or the Brow control plane on top of. This would relieve the Kubernetes community from maintaining the underlying infrastructure, because that's done by the managed OpenShift offering. And we can focus on distributing the Brow workloads. And I stop here.
Anyone has a question, comments, concern about the proposal? I prefer to leave people having questions before I give comments.
What this basically was the one question. Would this basically mean that the so that another company or a company is basically providing the managed OpenShift is then the underlying part of the distribution for the workload, so that basically this is then managing the clusters. Would this not eventually bring us to the same problem that we currently have, when we then say it is so much cost that is created on this managed side, that we are again in the same problem that we are now with Google? Because it's not self-hosted on all of the clouds, on all of the cloud providers. It's rather consuming an infrastructure service beneath it. So, and if the company then says, so if Red Hat says, now it's getting too expensive, move away.
Well, I'm not really in sales. I mean, I'm in the office of the CTO, so I cannot talk to how credits are spent or how money is flowing through the system. But from a layman's perspective, I understand it as, if I'm a customer, I'm bringing my AWS cost, which I'm giving to AWS to spin up EC2 resources, and then I'm paying Red Hat to manage OpenShift, to manage the OpenShift clusters, plus the subscription fees. So in essence, you're spending for the CPU, your dollars are going to AWS, and for the management layer, it's going to Red Hat. From a customer perspective, I'm getting a Kubernetes API, Kubernetes platform, plus all the OpenShift layering on top, which is essentially a nice UI and some other stuff. And sales would help me for that, saying that, but it feels like Kubernetes, and you can deploy Prow on top of it. So I think from a cost spending perspective, it makes it way easier to spread the cost across multiple clouds, across all the cloud providers that are supported by this. And we don't really depend on anything OpenShift specific. It's just, let's deploy Prow there. And that's where I might be too naive. So I don't know how the SIG, not SIG test, but there's a test infra test. I mean, how the CI jobs are handled, whether that's more involved than Prow and spinning up some test clusters.
By the way, I saw a comment in the chat about clarification of like, this is not exactly free resources. Just to be clear about what's been said here. It's more like an offer for an open source project to bootstrap resources, but underlying cost is covered by Red Hat. I think you basically a managed pro might make sense, but I'm not sure we are the right SIG to talk about this because we have SIG testing. So currently, Prow is a managed service for us. It's like, it's a managed service provided by Google for us. And that's gonna be like that for probably 2 to 3 years now. So I think Operate First makes sense if we basically, if at some point we say, okay, Google will not or will stop make that offer and the community need to own that. But it's not like a short-term plan. Because one requirement to move Prow from Google infrastructure to the community infrastructure is to make sure all the CI is owned by the community, which is not the case. Because I think we work on a migration plan for Prow for like now 2 years. So we identify what are the technical gaps to ensure the migration. And the first thing is like, make sure we have a good distribution of the CI between the different cloud providers, like onboard AWS, not onboard because we already use Azure, AWS, and GCP, the 3 major cloud providers right now. But we need to be more, I would say, more transparent about this because that operation management is not clear at the moment. So I think the one thing that basically block us to say, let's use what you're proposing is like the CI itself. That's like one blocker currently. And now once we do that, we can see, oh, can we do Prow? Can we see that's great? Because currently, I would say the CI services the project use, it's managed of, it's like a free offer from Google for us. We don't pay for that. They literally pay the infrastructure and the people operating that. So I'm not sure. It's interesting to do a POC, but short term, I'm not sure I can give you that answer. That's what I'm saying. I will defer to SIG testing about this.
Yeah.
From basically, I would say in the scope of the Kubernetes infrastructure, I would say all SIG K8s Infra, I would say, yeah, basically we need to finish move, make sure the CI is fully owned by the community. I think that's like the first thing we need to do first, because we talked to someone in Red Hat about, I know internally Red Hat did a Prow migration, and we got feedback from that. And the first suggestion was to basically fully own the CI, and we can move Prow control plane when this is done. So I'm not sure if I have the right answer for you right now. I don't think we can do a POC for next year. But that's what I'm saying. This is my personal take on this. Talk to SIG testing about this.
Okay. And I brought up Prow and CI because we had an email thread with Benjamin.
Yeah, Benjamin is currently SIG chair for SIG testing. So like as K8s Infra person, is part of K8s Infra, but he's also SIG chair of SIG testing. So talk to SIG testing about how we want to handle it. And the second aspect is like basically manage CI resources. We already do that with a project called Kubetest. Yeah, basically that project gives us the possibility to bootstrap Kubernetes environment regardless of the cloud provider. I think we support 3 to 4 cloud provider at the moment, and that gives us that flexibility to literally operate anything we want. I know Azure work on their own plugin. Justin is the one maintaining the AWS plugin for Justin Sembaba is the one maintaining the AWS plugin for Kubetest too. So in terms of like integration between Prow and the cloud provider, this is kind of cover. Now it's up to each SIG to basically decide, because we also have like SIG. I know sub project also use third-party CI services to basically test. I think Kubespray use something else like also Cluster API, for example, use GitHub Action to do E2E tests. So I think our role is to basically provide the infrastructure and at some point make sure there's an integration between a third-party service and us regarding the security impact. But it's kind of, each SIG is a little responsible for it. Like that's basically, we trust the SIG to behave about CI and not and basically do security, not introduce security issues. Like that's how I would say in general we operate. But the idea is interesting. I mean, I really see value for a project interest to have Prow and not always want to maintain it, because Prow is kind of difficult to operate at some point. So I see value of providing a managed offer for this. The thing is, the current context don't allow us to move to what you're proposing easily, or in the, I would say, like next month. But if I want to bootstrap like a new open source project and say, oh, I would need CI and I don't want to get GitHub Action, I would go to Opera first. Like that's like, there's value of doing that.
Carson also has his hand up.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to, I mean, Marcel spoke to it a little, to some degrees, but that it was an email exchange with Ben about where might be some places that we could be looking to be able to help. And he listed 2 items, and one of them seems like it's been registry work that's been going on, and then the CI. And so I guess he was looking at that with the SIG testing perspective. But I think what the context I just wanted to give was that this was just, oh, okay, we heard about that, took a look and saw what we saw, and Marcel, came to bring something to propose. But this proof of concept idea is kind of a blank. It could be it's a blank line. If there's like, we don't understand enough about the infrastructure to make guesses about how we could be helpful in this space and what we could be doing. And coming into the meeting to try to get that. I mean, I'm already getting like, just keeping up with the various ways that Prow is being used and the CI is going across. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of different stuff to try to get connection with in here. And so I'm not sure what would be the best way, but maybe if there's some way in which we could get together with 1 or 2 people who know the infrastructure, these different pieces, or is this maybe just waiting a week and have a conversation with Ben about what specifically means, something like that, so that we could try to tune something into a proof of concept that would actually show something useful to where you want to get to. Because I want to just, even going back to Mario's comment at the beginning, I think it's important. It's like we want to be finding a way to be helpful and moving forward to removing the dependencies and that the community has upon single vendors or anything else like that, and like or wherever it is that you want to be moving forward. So we need to help understand the problem space better, basically. So I think that's really the context I want to say. So it's, you know, it's not just this one thing that we came to propose and like, okay, thanks, give us a call later when you're ready for it. It's more like, hey, what else, you know, okay, if that's not the idea, then what else could be the idea? And we don't need to brainstorm on that in this meeting right now. But Marcel and a few other folks and myself will be happy, I'm sure, to get together and talk about those things sometime. So that's the open proposal.
That basically, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's way better to basically, if you talk to SIG testing folks, because they're like, they are the one making the decision about life cycle of PRAO and say, I would say the CI build and toolkit. That's what I'm saying. If you basically want to have like a conversation about trying to understand how we can integrate what you're proposing in the CI, they are the right person, because we are the underlying layer. We basically provide core, I would say, IT resources to the rest of the community. But because we are somehow a commodity for the community, we talk to a lot of people, and there's this confusion. We had the right person to answer on specific question. That's what I'm saying. This is like my take on this, but I will not tell you, hey, you should not do any. I prefer defer to SIG testing, because they are the one ultimately make the decision about PRAO and everything relate to PRAO. Because they're like other also integration problem we need to think about, and I'm not sure I'm the right person to talk about this.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, and then to find out if there's anything else that we could be doing outside, aside from PRAO, it would be just need to do more exploration, I guess.
Yeah, we can have different conversation about this. I like no problem having another conversation about this. Any question for Oper first, or Marcel?
Yeah, so as far as I could follow the previous recording notes and the SIG Infra,
yep,
markdown file on GitHub and Kubernetes web pages. I think we're mostly concerned about the registry and outbound traffic and storage and distribution of assets.
Yeah.
Is there anything that would, besides CI, and CI I only picked because we're also using that, and that was the most obvious example and use case for me for having the same interface across multiple cloud providers, and therefore having some cost management and cost distribution basically for free out of the box, because you're only talking to the same management interface then, and you can distribute that. So if you're saying SIG Infra is providing core IT services to the Kubernetes community, that's how I understood it. If any of these are also distributed across multiple Kubernetes instances, which provide these IT services, and you're federating them behind another layer, and you would have multiple of these Kubernetes clusters acting in concert behind that federation layer, maybe for other binary distribution, or if somebody's downloading something from a web page, you're also serving stuff, which is not necessarily going through a Podman or Docker or whatever command, which is doing something behind the scenes. It's an open-ended question.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, this is a good one, because I would say yes, but you need more input from other people, because we have SIG contracts, and SIG contracts will say yes or no, basically. I think I'm just expressing what you're trying to service. Basically, you're trying to automate a way to provide IT services to the community, like one unify, I would say, user experience to bootstrap specific services. Oh, I want a DNS. I just do some ClickUps over, I would say, whatever setup, and you get a DNS and try. You want a new cluster, these kind of things. I think it makes sense. I know other projects do that. But like I said, again, you have other, we are plugged to other people about this. I just cannot just say, oh yeah, so this is SIG contracts owning that. So I see value on doing that, and maybe we should try to do that. Like basically, if we don't have like Pro, we basically say, oh, we have something we can set up recurrent services like DNS. How we simplify the contributor experience to get a DNS entry under gates.io. How we do that? Is it doable? How we can look into this, or how we simplify getting an AWS account? I think it makes sense, but you need some kind of input for also other folks. So I'm happy to do the plugging between the folks. I don't have a problem, and we can try to think about POC for operate first. I think we can try with something like DNS as a service and see what's happening.
And I wasn't asking to plug operate first the concept there, just from a SIG Infra point of view, whether you are also looking into migrating any of SIG Infra services out of Google or across multiple cloud providers, where this model of having a managed Kubernetes / OpenShift offering would make sense in that context. And since we're already on the top of the hour, maybe we postpone this discussion.
The core service I don't want to say migrate, more like what we want to migrate is now artifacts and CI. That's like the first thing we need to do first. And maybe later core services and say, oh, we can deploy something. But the main goal right now, and I think for the next 6 months, is to ensure we can migrate CI and artifacts. I think that's the first goal I want to achieve first. And later think about how we can how we see IT services inside the community. That's what I'm saying. Like, if we want to do a POC about how we propose a managed service inside the community, we can try with something like DNS as a service and see what's happening. Like,
it's a really interesting topic too, about just seeing about the the IT for community is there's a shared journey going on as well as that's part of what Operate First is providing for its community sense. So there's some shared learnings and things like that, I would guess too, along with just the technical bits.
Okay, we out of time by 2 minutes. I'm really sorry about this. This was like an interesting conversation between Marcel and Carsten. I'm really sorry for people in the call. So I think if anyone has a question, feel free to drop it on Slack. I will try to answer. So I will say have a good rest of the day and see you maybe next meeting. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.